Hey folks, before I begin, I want it to be known that I'm not doing this for the views. Prince has become more popular because of his recent death, and there are a lot of folks posting Prince videos to cash in on his popularity. For those who think I'm doing the same thing, I'll direct you to my When Doves Cry demo that I posted on November 20th, 2015. In my description of that video, I said that if anybody wanted me to post a tutorial, they should request it in the comments. And if I got enough requests, I would do it. Anyway, I was working on this tutorial when Prince died, so my posting this video is mostly just bad timing. I'm not doing this to take advantage of his death. Prince's death is the worst thing that has ever happened in my life. I'm in mourning and my life will never be what it was. But I'll stop talking and get right to the video, most of which, as I said, was recorded before his death. Okay, before I begin, I should warn you, this is not a tutorial for the entire song. This is for the keyboard solo and the outro only. If you want the entire song, there are literally a billion other people out there on YouTube who will all too gladly show you how to play some piano arrangement. In fact, let's just get this out of the way first. Here's the riff. Okay, first inversion, F major. Root position, A minor. G major, root position. There, that's done. Now let's get to the solo. Okay, for the record, I've never done a piano tutorial before, so I don't really know what I'm doing. All I know is that I'm doing this in a way that I would have liked for it to have been done for me, which is to say, as simply as possible. But make no mistake, it's going to be tedious, but if you really want this badly enough, it can be done. Just keep a positive attitude and practice it. Right, R2? Okay. Shut up! Okay, so, first part. It begins on E, and I'm using my thumb and third finger, descending thirds starting on E. The second part, the ascending, is you'll notice I crossed my thumb under the second finger. Typically, classically trained people cross them under the third finger when doing scale work, but you will see that I crossed it under my second finger to better prepare me for the next phrase. So, your last note of that 16-note phrase should be an E with your second finger on it. Next part. Third finger on F. You'll notice the quickly changing notes here. Some would call it a turn. I think I would probably call it a mordant, but it sounds like so. One more time. Last note, C, second finger. Next, from your second finger on C, we start with the third finger on D. Descending thirds again. Notice where I change my thumb. Watch. Last note, C, third finger. This next part, it's just an ascending chromatic scale up until the last note. So if you've been classically trained, you can use your standard fingering for a chromatic scale, which is typically first, second, and third fingers all the way up. The third finger is generally reserved for the black keys, and it goes a little something like this. Notice, I did not go in typical chromatic fashion to the E flat, I went straight to the E. Coming back down, third finger on D from the last note of the ascending chromatic scale, which was fourth finger on E. You start with your third finger on D. Watch where I cross my finger over. And it sounds. Next section, descending thirds once again. Your last note from the last section was A with third finger. Begin this one with F on your thumb. Thumb and third finger. So it sounds. Next, probably the easiest part of the solo, for it is only 3 notes. You ended up in the last part with your third finger on A. You've got A, G, and E. "16 notes. And while I'm at it, you will notice this CD. If you're a real Prince fan, then this is what your CD will look like. Yes, the red Target CD, originally manufactured in West Germany. Yes, that's what your CD should look like if you're a real Prince fan. It should not look like this. Although I suppose if you are a real Prince fan, then you will have both of these. Like, also, it should be in the original long box. That's what CDs used to come in. Yeah. Okay, last section. And folks, this last section is the most difficult part of the entire song. Not just the solo, the entire song. This last section will make you determine with finality whether or not you actually want to put forth the effort in learning this solo. It's really only a chromatic scale, but if you've had any classical training, you're going to have to toss that classical training right out the window in order to accomplish this. And by classical training, I mean that the typical fingerings for the chromatic scale are 1, 2, and 3, as you will see here. That's the run, and that's played classically. But you got to remember, this song goes at 127 beats per minute. I myself do not possess the ability to play that chromatic scale at 127 beats per minute. I can't do it. Whoever can do that is a monster. And I'm sure there are some monsters out there who can do that, but if they can, they have yet to post any tutorial videos for this solo on YouTube. Probably because they have better things to do, because they're actually outperforming and doing this stuff for a living. But anyway, I digress. I had to forget my classical fingering. The most difficult part was trying to devise a way around that. But I came up with this, and oddly it makes it a lot easier as far as your fingers switching positions and everything. You're actually, in order to play this faster, your fingers are actually going to move slower. And I did that by slipping my fingers off of the black keys. For example, I've played 5 notes there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but used only, well, 3 fingers, but like this. It's a lot quicker that way. And so with that, I will sort of revert back to classical fingering. Like if I played the G major scale, I would cross my thumb under my 3rd finger. So I will use the thumb under my 3rd finger as part of the technique for this. So it's still a slight semblance of classical technique. Does that make sense? It's stupid for me to ask you because I can't hear any of your answers. Anyway. That's the first section of the chromatic scale. It sounds closer to tempo like this. The last section of this scale. You ended on the F sharp with your 3rd finger. You come back down to the F. And this time you play all the way to your 4th finger by slipping your 2nd finger and 3rd finger off of the black keys. You're going to pause there. You'll notice you can just do this easily. So, when you get to this when you get to this B with your 4th finger, you will slip your thumb under it and finish it. And it sounds like faster. Run from the very beginning. And slower. Finally, the outro. This is a lot easier than the rest of the solo. However, it's complicated by using both hands. I'm going to be playing with 2 hands at the same time. Oh my God. Okay, but before I show you the outro, I have to say none of this would be possible if not for my mother. I owe all that I am to her, and I'm not doing this for money, but if any of you found this tutorial helpful and are feeling generous, you can make a donation to my mother's PayPal account at babshightower@hotmail.com. Here's the correct spelling. And finally, you're going to get a brief sermon. Folks, we all play music at different levels, and we waste our time comparing ourselves to others. As Qui-Gon Jinn said, there's always a bigger fish. So don't be discouraged if you thought someone else's playing is better than yours. Just focus on yourself and keep practicing. You will become as good as you want to be. On the dark side of that, if you're one of those people who sees a video of someone playing and you think it's bad or not as good as you, there's no need to post a comment telling them so. They may have posted their video to get some encouragement. You never know what hardships someone is going through. If you want to tell someone they're not good, why not tell them in a private message? If you need to take valuable time out of your day to post comments telling someone how terrible they are, what does that say about you? What it says is that you want your criticism to be public. You want people to know that you're qualified to judge the abilities of others. It also says that your life is full of anger and jealousy. All too often, I see anonymous people posting terrible comments telling a musician how bad he or she is. The funny thing is, those anonymous people don't have any videos of themselves playing music. So the next time you want to tear someone apart for their performance, remember that you're really telling the world more about yourself than the person's performance. In the words of Prince, "Isn't life cruel enough without cruel words? You see, words are like shoes. They're just something to stand on. I wish you could be in my shoes, but they're probably so high that you'd fall off and die. For you, words are definitely not shoes. They're weapons and tools of destruction, and your time is boring unless you're putting something down." Anyway, end of lecture. Now for the outro. Also, it's good to have an official source for the music. Sometimes you have actual sheet music, but most of the time you don't. And I do not recommend following sheet music arrangements for learning stuff like this, because most of the time what's written in the music is not what you're hearing on the recordings. And I think artists just want to keep all the secrets to themselves. But in this case, we actually here have a source for the outro. I'm just going to hold it up here so you can get a good look at it and get a screenshot if you want for later. If you know how to read music, then you've got this. Just telling you right now, the solo is not in here. You have to pretty much learn that by ear. You can see that nowhere in any of this arrangement is there anything resembling a solo. But yes, that's the outro, and those notes are correct. Okay, first part of the solo, the right hand. Begin with A, first finger, G sharp, third finger. Slowing it down. Divide this in half. From here to here, we'll stop it. So notice, I've crossed under my third finger here with my first finger on the A. And I've done that because I'm basically going to play the exact same thing from this octave to here. And that's the best way to begin once again. Notice I don't use any more than my first, second, and third fingers. You can hear I've accented each four . So, and then same thing for the last octave. I don't think I need to go through this with you more than once because it's the same thing as here. The only problem is the transition between the two. Last and least, the left-hand part. It begins on A, and you're going to use your last finger, and when you cross over you'll be using your fourth finger as opposed to generally your third finger. It's going to essentially be like this sort of scale where, watch how my fourth finger crosses over both times. Fourth finger crosses over my thumb. So, that's your scale. You play each note twice. That's it. Both together. And closer to tempo. So that's it. That's the end of this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had a good time. Did you have a good time, R2? Okay. Okay, shut up. Shut up! Okay. So, goodbye.